Elderly wisdom isn't about nostalgia. It's about survival. Picture this: a century-old oak tree, hollowed by storms yet unbroken, its rings etched with every drought it outlived. That's elderly wisdom, the art of thriving because of life's scars, not in spite of them. This isn't your grandmother's decluttering advice. This is Stoicism forged in the kiln of time. 7 battle-tested hacks to strip life down to its unshakable core. The modern world worships the new, the fast, the disposable. But true grit isn't built in a viral moment. It's carved over decades of pruning what doesn't matter. Elderly wisdom teaches you to declutter like a war survivor, not for aesthetics, but to make room for the unkillable. That chipped teacup your great-aunt refused to replace? A masterclass in a more fatty. The moth-eaten wool coat she wore for 40 winters? A manifesto on scarcity is strength. Forget KonMari. The elders didn't tidy, they honed. Their decluttering wasn't about joy. It was about endurance. They knew, what you keep in your home isn't clutter, it's a curriculum. Every object, habit, or relationship either trains you for life's blizzards or leaves you freezing when they hit. In this video, you'll steal 7 unspoken rules from those who've weathered recessions, wars, and existential winters. The 100-year threshold: would this outlive me? Scarcity scaffolding: how to let lack make you limitless. Rust rituals: why elders polish what others replace. And 4 more merciless filters that turn clutter into courage. This isn't minimalism. This is post-apocalyptic prep for the soul, using elderly wisdom to build a life that survives you. Elders don't declutter. They distill. The Anvil principle is their unspoken law. Every object kept must withstand the hammer blows of time, not just spark fleeting joy. Imagine your great-grandfather's pocket knife, blade worn thin, handle splintered, yet still sharp enough to skin a deer. Its value isn't in utility, but in the silent sermon it preaches. What lasts isn't pristine, it's persistent. Modern minimalism obsesses over pristine shelves. Elderly wisdom demands bloodstains. That chipped soup pot you toss. To elders, it's a minter. Its cracks map droughts survived. Its scorch marks tally meals shared in lean years. Decluttering here isn't subtraction. It's curating a toolkit for existential winters. You don't keep the knife because it's useful. You keep it because its stubborn refusal to break whispers. You'll bend, but not snap. The Anvil principle ruthlessly asks, does this object hold a lesson I'd risk forgetting? Not memories, muscle. Elders know, a home cluttered with unbreakable things becomes a gym for the soul. That hand-whittled spoon, a callus carving coach, the patch quilt, a sparring partner for resilience. To declutter like them is to weaponize scarcity, turning lack into leverage. This is minimalism as blacksmithing. Fire, hammer, repeat. What remains isn't tidy, it's tempered. Elders don't hoard, they cultivate. The root cellar mentality isn't about storing cans for doomsday. It's about burying treasures that ferment wisdom under life's frost. Picture your grandmother's pantry. Jars of peaches preserved in 1982, seeds saved from a harvest gone to rust, a ledger of debts forgiven but never forgotten. To you, clutter. To her, a living library of survival. Modern minds see a jar of buttons as junk. Elders see a genealogy of resilience. Each button a fallen soldier from shirts that outlived marriages, layoffs, and funerals. Decluttering here isn't tossing the trivial. It's decoding hieroglyphics of grit. That cracked vase glued 7 times? A syllabus on repair. The drawer of dead batteries? A parable. Even spent things teach you to hold charge. The root cellar mentality demands, does this scarcity have a story? Elders know depth isn't found in fresh produce, but in preserves. They keep the sewing kit not to mend fabric, but to rehearse patience. They stockpile dandelion greens not for salads, but to remember hunger's gift, the way lack sharpens gratitude like a whetstone. This is frugality as archaeology. Every useless relic is a shovel to dig for your own roots. What you dismiss as dust, elders kneel to decipher. Elders don't mend clothes. They ordain them. Threadbare theology is the belief that frayed collars and patched knees aren't flaws, they're scripture. Picture your grandfather's work jacket, elbows thin as communion wafers, oil stains blooming like psalms. To discard it would be heresy. Why? Because every thread pulled loose by time becomes a prayer rope for resilience. Modern minimalism preaches, out with the old. Elderly wisdom whispers, out with the shallow. That sweater shrunk by decades of washes? It's a relic of how to shrink your wants. The boots resoled 9 times? A liturgy on standing firm when life grinds you down. Decluttering here isn't editing, it's exegesis. You don't ask, does this spark joy? You ask, does this spark defiance? Elders know, holes are holy. A moth-eaten blanket isn't fabric, it's a battlefield map. Each missing stitch marks a winter survived, a child swaddled, a loss mourned. To keep it is to keep a diary of durability. Throw it away, and you trash the Talmud of tenacity written in wool and sweat. This is minimalism as sacrament. What you preserve isn't fabric, it's faith. Faith that less isn't lack. Faith that worn things wherein you a groove for grit. Elders don't fear empty shelves, they curate them. Ghost shelves are intentional voids where absence becomes the mentor. Picture your grandmother's cupboard. One plate missing, a gap left when her brother marched to war. To fill it would be sacrilege. That emptiness isn't lack, it's a lecture hall. Modern minimalism obsesses over breathing room. Elderly wisdom breathes into the void. That vacant chair at the table? A Stoic exercise in loving what's lost without crumbling. The blank wall where a clock once ticked? A workshop for patience, teaching you to tell time by the sun's arc, not gears. Decluttering here isn't removal, it's resurrection. You don't discard the shattered vase. You shelve its shadow to rehearse letting go while still bowing to its weight. Elders know, empty spaces are whetstones. A shelf stripped bare isn't a design choice. It's a sparring partner for scarcity. That hollow where a radio once blared? It hums louder now with the sermons of silence. To keep it empty is to enroll in the Elders Academy, where absence drills you in the art of enough. This is decluttering as elegy. What you don't replace becomes the curriculum. Elders declutter like shipwrights, not minimalists. The Ballast philosophy, every object kept must steady you in squalls, not just float in calm seas. That chipped anchor of a coffee mug. To elders, it's ballast, weighted with decades of pre-dawn risings, of hands steadied by its heat during grief's tempests. Modern minimalism lightens the load. Elderly wisdom selects cargo that lets you sail through the storm, not flee it. Decluttering here is naval drill. Keep only what lowers your center of gravity when life tilts. The cracked compass? It points true north through fog. The frayed rope? It's been tested in gales. To discard them isn't freedom, it's capsizing. Elders know, ballast isn't dead weight. It's the hidden calculus of buoyancy. What you retain isn't clutter, but the keel that keeps you upright when waves rage. This is grit as gravity. Scars become ballast. Loss becomes leverage. And your home? A hull forged by every storm you've outrun. Elders don't erase stains. They study them. Compost chronology is the practice of letting life's ruins rot into resolve. That cracked porch step your grandfather never fixed? A living lab where splinters become sermons on bearing weight. The yellowed letters in the attic? Not clutter. Compost, slowly fermenting into fertilizer for forgiveness. Modern minimalism fears decay. Elderly wisdom curates it. A rusted hinge isn't junk, it's a tutor. Its creak teaches the arithmetic of endurance. How many generations of doors must swing before metal learns to sing? Decluttering here isn't deletion. It's dissection. You don't ask if it sparks joy. You ask, what wisdom will this wreckage weep as it weathers? Elders know, mold is a mentor. The waterlogged Bible bloating in the cellar? Its warped pages now preach humility, how even holy words bend when soaked in time. To discard it would be to bulldoze a battlefield where surrender and stubbornness once clashed. This is decluttering as time travel. What you let decay becomes the dirt where your grit takes root. Rot isn't failure, it's folklore. Elders don't clutter their days with trends. They anchor them. Beacon rituals are unchanging practices. The widow's dawn tea sip from the same chipped cup, the farmer's moonlit walk along the same fence line. That slice through modern chaos like a lighthouse beam. These aren't routines. They're repetitions worn smooth as river stones, carving grooves of grit into the soul's bedrock. Decluttering here isn't tossing objects. It's trimming ephemeral habits. That cracked teapot used daily since '65? Not a relic, but a metronome for resilience. Its ritual steeps discipline into each sunrise. To abandon it for a faster kettle would be to jettison your compass in a squall. Elders know, rituals are the ultimate decluttering hack. They erase indecision's clutter, leaving a path cleared for purpose. Modern life hoards novelty. Elderly wisdom hoards North Stars. The ritual isn't the action. It's the refusal to let storms reroute you. What you repeat becomes your raft. What you retain becomes your rudder. This is minimalism as navigation. Less isn't empty, it's oriented. The grit of elderly wisdom isn't forged in grand gestures. It's carved into the marrow of daily life. Those chipped teacups, ghost shelves, and rusted hinges aren't clutter. They're calluses for the soul. This is decluttering as defiance, refusing to let life's storms erode your core. The elders didn't survive scarcity by hoarding. They thrived by treating every crack as a curriculum, every void as a vault for resilience. Your home isn't a showroom. It's a dojo. And these 7 hacks are your katana, sharpened by generations who turned lack into legacy. Decluttering here isn't about minimalism. It's about maximizing your capacity to endure. Because grit isn't found in what you own. It's etched into what you refuse to discard. If this unorthodox path to grit resonates, join our fellowship of modern Stoics. Hit subscribe and ring the bell. Your journey into elderly wisdom has just begun. Explore more videos on extreme minimalism, frugal living, and the unspoken rules of resilience. The elders didn't just survive. They outlived. Will you?